Good evening. This is Karen with Karen's Cards and More, here for Stamp and Share. And tonight we're going to make this cute little basket. Isn't this really cute? You could use it for Mother's Day. You could use it just for a little treat basket. I really love this. I thought it turned out really cute. So this is what we're going to make tonight. We're still using the Timeless Tulip stamp set, which we've been featuring for the month of April. And so let's just look at what we need and get right into it. I'm glad you all could join me. Here's the stamp set. You've seen this in the other weeks. Tonight we're just going to be using 2 images, and that goes on the side of the basket. The scoring and the paper is going to do most of the work for us tonight. We've just got a little bit of stamping and a little bit of fussy cutting, but other than that, it's mostly scoring and folding and that kind of thing. So we're going to use the medium size and the small tulip out of the Timeless Tulip set. We're not going to need any sentiment tonight. You definitely could do a sentiment like on a tag and add it to the strap, the handle, if you wanted to, but we're not going to for tonight, okay? So let's look at the papers. There's really not a whole lot of paper that we need tonight. The base, we're using Rococo Rose, and this will be retiring at the end of April. So if you like this color, you might want to order a pack of it. This is a 6x6 square. And then of the Designer Series paper, we have a square that's 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. And then we have the handle, which is just a 1/2 inch strip by 7 inches. You could make this shorter if you wanted. You could make it skinnier. You could make it wider, however you wanted to do it. But the size that I've chose is 1/2 inch wide, 7 inches long. And then we're just going to use a piece of the basic white, and this is what we're going to do our stamping on. So let's just get right into it. We're going to be using Blushing Bride and Highland Heather ink. So the first thing that we're going to do, there. I had to enlarge my view on my iPad so I can watch and see if there's comments. I didn't want to miss a comment. So we're going to open these, and I'm going to bring in my stamps, and these are the polymers, so I'm going to bring in a piece of foam to put underneath. You could use a paper piercing pad. If you have the Stamparatus, there's a foam pad that comes with that works really well for this, but you want to put something soft underneath this to get a better image. Okay, make sure that I'm in the camera. All right, so we're going to start with the larger of the 2, and we want to stamp 2 of these in the Blushing Bride. So let's start with that. So just ink it up. And just stamp 2 of them. And then we're going to take the Highland Heather, and we're going to stamp 2 of the little one. I'm trying to think of where I can conserve the most paper, have the least waste. Let's scoot this over a little bit. And that's all the stamping we have. Now, I debated whether to go ahead and fussy cut these ahead of time. You'll want to go ahead and close up your ink pads so that we don't get into the ink while we're doing the rest of our basket. But I debated on whether to go ahead and fussy cut these ahead of time and just get into creating the basket. But if you have the kit and if you're creating along with me, you would be behind because I'd have these fussy cut pieces done and you would not. So I thought we're just going to chat a little bit and fussy cut at the same time. Fussy cut is not my favorite thing. And if you're new to crafting and you're probably going, what is she talking about, fussy cutting? It's just cutting around the stamped image and cutting it out. I usually like to work with smaller pieces, so I'm just going to cut really broad around this just to give myself a smaller piece to hold in my hand. And I don't cut right on the stamped line. I cut outside of it a little. And it's better to move the paper and not the scissors. I use little snips. I have a pair that I use just for paper, so I don't cut anything but paper with these. And that keeps them from getting, you know, sometimes you cut stuff that's sticky and all that. So I try not to do that. So hopefully, I see a comment that somebody says, bring it on camera. I'm hoping that you can see it. My view, I'm seeing it. So if you're not seeing it, please let me know. So we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to do some very broad cutting just to get this so I can work on this one piece at a time. All right. And I'm holding it farther away from myself than I normally do, so I hope this doesn't affect my cutting. And I'm not the world's fastest at this. Probably if I went faster, it would, you know, sometimes I think you can go so slow that you mess it up. And I don't try to go exactly right up against the top. I just kind of, you know, move it a little to get the general shape. One down. Okay, and we just need to cut all of these out. I don't know where everybody's from. I know that I have one that's usually here that's from Tennessee, and I don't know what the weather's going to be tonight, but I hear in Ohio we're supposed to get snow tonight. Can you believe it? I thought we were done with that. They were talking about covering your plants, and I've got stuff that's already starting to bloom out and stuff like that, and they were talking about needing to cover them because we're going to get snow. Isn't that the craziest thing? I thought we were done with all that. I'm looking for the warm weather. Okay, and just going to cut these out. Okay. 2 down, 2 to go. Okay. And I'm just going to cut in between these to make it just, I just find it easier when I'm working with a smaller piece than trying to cut around the big piece. For me, that's easier. For you, it may not be, but that's just what works for me. I love dies. I love being able to just run these through the die machine and not have to do this. But there's some beautiful stamps that would make awesome cutouts that don't have dies. So then the only option there is fussy cutting. So reminds you of your school days, doesn't it? Okay. And one more. I hope everybody is able to keep up with this. I know we're going to have a lot of scoring tonight. So if you don't have, that's one thing that if you're going to make a lot of cards and you don't have either a score buddy or the Stampin' Up! Trimmer is really nice because you can cut with it and you can also score with it. That's what I use. You can do it with a bone folder and a ruler, but it just takes a little longer. It's really nice to be able to just use my trimmer, and because I have a score blade and a cut blade. So we are definitely going to be doing some scoring tonight. Okay, that part, the hardest part's done. That was it, the fussy cutting. So you should have 2 of the larger pink ones, which is actually the medium size in the stamp set. And then you should have 2 of the small ones in the Highland Heather. You could have reversed the colors if you wanted to. This is just the way I had done it. So let's move to the next part. This really, it looks more intimidating than it is. It's really not as bad as what it looks. So the next thing we want to do is we want to bring in our square of Rococo Rose and our square of Designer Series paper. And we're going to center the paper on the cardstock. So we're just going to put adhesive on the back and center it. This particular pattern, there's really no directional thing to worry about. Some papers, if you're using a different paper and it's directional, you'll want to really think about that and how the basket's going to come together. But for this, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to bring in my Stampin' Seal. And I'm just going to add adhesive around all the sides. Now, if I was just putting a card together, I would probably just go around the edges and leave it at that. But because of the way we're going to be doing some cutting and some trimming, I'm going to run some extra down the middle, just to make sure that everything holds in place. Okay. And then we're just going to come in and we're just going to try to center this. Now mine is going to have, I have to tell you what I did. Mine's going to have a little more border than yours will if you have a kit, if you got one of the kit, and if you cut this 5 3/4. Mine's 5 1/2, and here's why. When I sent out the kits, the only square of this Designer Series paper I had left was 5 1/2. So I had to go with 5 1/2 instead of 5 3/4. So if you see that my border's a little bit wider than yours, that's okay, because what's in the kit is a little bit, the Designer Series paper is a little bit bigger. So that's why that's like that. Okay, then you're going to need whatever you're going to use to score with. I'm using my Stampin' Up! Trimmer. If you're using your Score Buddy, I have an older Score Buddy that I had before I was doing Stampin' Up! I'll show you it. I don't even know what brand it is. If you have something like this that has it marked and has the ridges, you can use this to score. If you don't have that, you can use a ruler, whatever you have. But I can tell you, this is one of the nicest purchase, one of the best things I've ever purchased, because I can try to turn it so you can see both blades at the same time. The darker blade is the cutting blade and the lighter blade is the score blade. So if I want to cut, I use this one. If I want to score, I use that one. And so it's really nice. You have all the measurements. It makes it just really easy to do your scoring or your cutting. So this is what I'm going to use. Now, because it's a square, it doesn't matter which end you put in, but you're going to want your first score, you want to do at 1 7/8. So, like on mine, it's marked in 16ths. So you want to go 1 7/8. And then you're going to score it all the way across. And you probably want to go a couple times because you're scoring through the cardstock plus the Designer Series paper. And then we're going to slide it down to 4 1/8. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to score that. And then we're going to turn it 90 degrees, just like that. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go at 1 7/8. And then we're going to go 4 1/8. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over. It might be easier to see on the back, but you have kind of a grid. You have a middle square, and then you have squares all around it. So that's what it should look like. So then we want to score in just the corners. So we're going to start, and it doesn't matter, like I said, since it's squared. And I'm going to leave it on this side so I can see my score lines. And if you need to fold a little bit, just so you can see where those score lines are, because you're going to want to be able to know where those are. So if you need to fold it just a little bit to do that so you can see it, that's fine. Okay, so in the corner squares, we are going to, we want to score it at 5/8. So I'm going to start this way. So we want to score it at 5/8, and we're just going from the top to that first score line, okay? And that's what another thing that I like about this, being able to score with this trimmer, because you have this clear guide you can see. So we're going to do 5/8, and then we're going to do 1 1/4. Again, from the top down to that first score line. I'm going to back up and do that score again because I didn't go down quite far enough. Mine's kind of hard to see. I'm going to fold this. Oh, I guess I did get it. Okay. All right. So we're going to go to 1 1/4. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to score from the top down to that first score line. And then we're going to go to, I need to do that one just a little bit further. And then we're going to go down to 4 3/4. And I'm going to have to, I'm going to move this. Actually, I think what I'll do, that's not going to put it, I need to get it to where, I'm trying to think how I can get this end of my board in the camera. Because I need to go, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You can either go to 4 3/4, or you can come from the edge and you can come into, you can go 5/8 from here. So, trying to think if that's going to be right. Yeah. So you can go 5/8. You can put it on 5/8 on this side. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to score from the top down to that first score line. And then I'm going to move it over to 1 1/4. And it's just going to depend on what kind of scoring tool you're using, which way you're going to do this. You're basically doing both sides the same. Okay, then we want to turn it to the opposite end. So here's where we just scored, and we want to go to the opposite end, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do 5/8 from the top to the score line. And then we're going to do 1 1/4. And I need to go just a little bit further. Okay. And then we're going to go to the other end and we're going to do the same thing. 5/8 down to the score line, and then 1¼ inch from the other end. Down from the top to the score line. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move my trimmer for a moment, and I'm just going to fold on these lines. Actually, I need to fold the other way. Because it's just going to be easier to see. And it's a little bulky because you're folding through both layers, but we just need to have an idea where it's at. So that's what we're doing here. Okay. And you can see that the corner pieces are where we just scored. Okay? Are you with me so far? All right. Now, if you look at, so if you lay it down so that the corners that we just scored, the score lines we just did, you want them to be going horizontal, and you want them to be at the top and the bottom. So the middle section, other than the mid score lines, you don't have any score lines across there. Once you have that, just flip it 90 degrees, and you're going to need to take a ruler and a pencil, and in this middle square, if you measure 3 inches from the end and put a little mark, that should be right in the middle of that middle square. And you want to do that on the top and the bottom. So do it on the one side and then flip it and measure it the same way on the other end. Just put a little mark. And I'm doing it on the back side so it'll never show on the front, so it won't matter. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to draw a line from that tick mark to where the two folds come together. So if you're looking at your square, so the way I've got my square, I've got the two middle squares that we just marked at the top and the bottom. And to the left and to the right are the squares where we did the scoring. And they're running vertical now. So what I'm going to do, you want to take your ruler and you want to mark from that middle tick mark to the corner where those two folds come together. So you got 3 squares across the top. Where the two fold lines come together, you want to mark. Just draw a line. And you want to do the same thing on the other side of the square. You're making a triangle. And you want to do that on both ends. Trying to find where my fold is. Okay. And you want to do it on the other side too. Bring that down a little so my ruler doesn't hit. Okay. All right. Now, you're going to come in with your paper snips and you're cutting out these 2 side triangles that you just made from your, and And I tried to draw mine kind of heavy. You didn't have to draw them that heavy. I just did it so that you'd be able to see it on the camera. So we're going to cut up along this fold line, and then we're going to cut across the pencil mark. So we're cutting out on each end, we're cutting out 2 triangles. Okay? So just cut along the score line. To me, this is easier to do by hand right here instead of, you could put it back in the trimmer and trim it with the trimmer, but to me it's just as easy to do it by hand at this point. So you're just going to cut out those triangles. So you should have something that looks like that. Then you're just going to do the other side. One more. Okay. So you have something that looks like this. Now what we want to do is we want to cut on the score lines on the 4 corner squares. That's where your vertical lines are, and we want to cut along those lines. So you're going to cut from the edge to the fold. You're just going to cut straight. You're just going to cut, you're basically cutting into 3 little strips. Just to the fold. And you're going to do that on all 4 squares. Just cut right up to the fold. One more side to do. Okay, and if you get the, oh, I guess I have one more to do. I thought I was down to 1 and I still have 1 to go. So you just want to make sure you get all 4 corners. And if these aren't, I mean, you want to try to cut them as straight as you can along the fold, but if they're not perfectly straight, it will hide a little bit. So now before I go on, I'm going to take my eraser. And I'm going to come back and erase these pencil marks just because I don't like them on there. You probably won't see them in the end result, but, and especially since I did mine a little heavier for the camera, I definitely want to get rid of these marks. Okay. All right. Now, as far as putting the basket together, the next part really is the only real challenge to it, and that's only because you have to hold a lot of things together at the same time. So you want to make sure all your folds are good, because that will make this part easier. Okay. So you're going to take the 2 closest to the inside, and you're going to hold them. I'm going to try to do this so that it's good for the camera view. You're going to hold them with the points together. Actually, you want to start with the 2 end ones. It really wouldn't matter either way, but it'll work better to start with the two end ones. And then you're going to come up with the next one. This is the hard part because you got to hold everything together. Definitely, if you have an extra set of hands around. Okay. And so you just keep working all three of them till you get them up there. And then you can kind of play with them a little bit and just kind of, you want to get them all. And that gives you that scallop look, that pleated look, I guess you would say. And this joint is not going to show. We're going to cover it with our cutouts, and we're going to cover it with the handle. So you want to put all that together. Hold that all together. And then you're just going to come in with a stapler and staple it. Just like that. You won't see the staple when we're done. Okay? Now we're just going to repeat the same thing on the other side. Start with the ones at the top. Bring the next two in. Bring the bottom one in. Fold up your middle. And then just kind of work it a little bit. You can move them around till you get it the way you want it. And then you're going to do the same thing. You're going to come in with your stapler. And staple it together. And the box is made at this point. We don't have a whole lot left to do. We have the box basically done. So then we just need to come in with our handle. And you can staple the handle. I staple mine to the outside because I want it, number one, I'm going to cover the staple that we just did. And number two, I'm going to cover that with our flowers. So you can put one end, you can put it wherever you want. You won't want to put it too far down because then your flowers won't cover it. But just figure out just a little bit. And then you're going to come in with your stapler. And you're just going to give it a staple. And then I'm going to come in with the other side. I'm just going to fold it over. And I'm going to do the same thing. The hardest part's keeping your fingers out of the way while you staple. That's really the hardest part. And just staple it down far enough to where your flowers can cover it. Okay, so now we've got our handle on there. So then I'm going to move my basket out of the way, and I'm going to come in with my flowers. So you could do it either way. You could put the larger one on top and the smaller one behind it, or you could do it like this. I put the little one on top. Just like that. You could use a little bit of glue. You could use a little bit of Stampin' Seal. However you want to attach it. I'm just going to put, I think I'm just going to try a little bit of Stampin' Seal. See if I can get just a little bit on there. Just enough to hold these together. Just like that. And you don't want to put too much because you don't want to leave a bunch of sticky on your flower. So then I'm going to come with the other one. And I'm just going to put a little bit on there. And again, I'm going to attach it. Just attach them together. Now for the next part, you could use dimensionals, or you could use glue dots, whichever you have. I've made them doing both, but I think tonight I'm just going to use glue dots. So I'm just going to take a glue dot and I'm going to put it right where the two meet. So it's just on the back right where the two meet. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to cover up my staples. Move it up just a little bit. Just like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. I'm going to come in here and put the glue dot on the back. I'm going to turn this to the other side. And I'm going to just come right down in here. I'm going to turn it. I like it so that the where the flowers meet is kind of centered on the handle. You can do it however you want it. And then I'm just going to press that on there. And it's ready to fill with some of the little paper grass stuff and then some candy treats. However you want to do it, make a really cute Mother's Day. I know we just came through Easter. It would have been great for Easter, but I kind of decorated it with the tulips for Mother's Day. So there you have it. It's really a lot easier than it looked. I know it probably looked more intimidating when you looked at the picture than what it actually is to make it. So there you go. There's your little basket. If you ordered the kits from me, or if you placed a $50 order and received the kit for free, then you have enough to make a total of 4 baskets. So get creative, change it up, make it your own. Before I hop off for today, I just want to show you, give you a heads up to what we're going to be doing for the month of May. You don't have much time if you're going to order anything for May. So if you get your order in, maybe you'll have it by the first week. Next week, we are not going to have Stamp and Share. I'm going to be out of town, so we will not have Stamp and Share next Monday night. The first Monday in May will be our next one. And the month of May, we're going to be featuring the Hydrangea Hill Suite. So if you want to participate in that, you'll want to go ahead and order this stamp set if you don't already have it. If you place a $50 order, again, I will send you the kits for free, and it will have a PDF instructions with it. The kits will be enough to make 4 of each card. So if you place that $50 order in the next week, then I'll get that kit out to you and try to get it to you by our first Monday night in May. Let me show you the cards that we're going to do. The first week in May, we're going to feature this one, and the hydrangea is stamped. Just doing some layering, layering of the DSP and the cardstock, some pretty simple stamping. And that's our first card. Then the second week of May, we're going to step it up a little bit. We're going to use the die set. You can order if you order this with the die set, you can save 10% if you bundle them. You could order just the stamp set and not get the die set, but if you order both, you'll get a 10% savings by doing that. The second week of May, we're going to use this part of the die set. We're going to cut out the whole hydrangea, but then we're going to use this one to make this look. So we'll take a little time to puff up our petals, and that will be the second week of May that we'll be doing this. Okay? And then the third week of May, we're going to go stepping it up even more. We're going to go to a fun fold. And so we're going to do this card, a double Z fun fold. We're going to do some background stamping. We're going to use these little die cut flowers, a variety of techniques that we're going to use. But this will be the 3rd week in May. So you won't want to miss this. Get your orders of $50 in. You'll get the kits for free. If not, you can order the kit from me. You can pay by PayPal. For $30, you will get all 3 kits. Actually, it's $10 a week, which would be, in theory, $30. But if you order all 3 kits, I'll sell it for $25. So you could pay $25 and get 4 of each of the 3 cards. If you want just a PDF of the instructions, you can do that for $5. You can get that. But it's a great value if you're going to buy the stamp set anyway. And if you want to get the stamp set with the die, so that's a 10% savings. Plus, if you have a $50 order, you're going to get all these kits for free. Definitely a good deal, good way to go. Again, just a reminder, next Monday night, we will not be doing Stamp and Share, but then I will be back the 1st Monday in May. Hope you enjoyed making the basket tonight, and I hope you'll craft with me again soon.